Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Friday, May 19th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 250 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Big news out of Maryland as the state's Medical Marijuana Commission voted this week to grant final approval for the first cultivation license awarded in their newly forming industry. On Wednesday, the commission voted unanimously to award a final cultivation license to the company Forward Grow, which I've reported on in the past, and in full disclosure, whose CFO Gail is a friend of mine and listener of the show. Maryland awarded a total of 15 provisional cultivation licenses, with Forward Grow being the first to transition into full licensing. During the same meeting that Forward Grow was given the green light, another of the 15 provisional licensees was told to put the brakes on. The commission announced that Mary Med LLC was being stripped of its provisional license for failing to provide documents related to its parent company, Vireo Health. While Maryland's medical marijuana program has been marked by controversy over how the state's licenses were awarded, with no efforts being made to ensure racial diversity among licensees, I'm glad that patients in the state will finally get access to the medicine they need as things are worked out on the back end legislatively. Tom Angel over Massroots has a good piece up rounding up the latest positive developments on the marijuana legalization front in the states of Vermont and Michigan. As I've reported on in recent weeks, Vermont made the huge step of passing, for the first time, adult use legalization via the legislative process. Yesterday, that bill was officially passed on to the desk of Governor Phil Scott for his final deliberation. As Tom's reporting, the governor has not really made it very clear on how he's voting on the matter. The other big development yesterday was out of Michigan, where the Board of State Canvassers approved an effort to gather more than 250,000 signatures to put the question of adult use legalization before voters in the 2018 midterm elections. Michigan activists will now need to collect 252,523 valid signatures if they want to put their taxation and regulation question on the ballot. Our final top story of the day is the proposed bill introduced this week into the U.S. Senate by a bipartisan band of senators that seeks to ease banking restrictions on the legal marijuana industry that regular listeners should be well aware of by now. On the conservative side of the co-sponsor spectrum is Republican Senator Rand Paul, with progressive Democrat Senator Cory Booker bookending things on the liberal side. Their bill would block federal banking officials and regulators from pressuring banks in any way to not extend services to legal marijuana businesses. Lifting banking sanctions would be a huge lift to the industry, but with the hostile Attorney General Sessions in power at the Department of Justice, it's certainly a contentious time to push banking reform. We'll track this one as it develops. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz on headlines, let's quickly talk about the easiest way you can help this podcast grow without spending a dime. Just open up iTunes and find Marijuana Today Daily to leave a rating and review. It couldn't be easier. Just search for the term marijuana and let me know what you think of the show. All right, time for the blitz. The Washington Post has a good story up about the age limit that Canada is setting as a minimum for users within its legal adult use marijuana system set to roll out next summer. Whereas in every American state with legal adult use, you have to be 21 years of age or older to partake, in Canada, they're shooting for 18 as their minimum age. Colorado State Representative Jonathan Singer, who's been active in his state in pushing for progressive marijuana reform, nicely summed up Canada's justification for going with 18 years instead of 21 when he said, quote, "If you're old enough to go to war, then you should be old enough to be trusted to use a recreational substance," unquote. This is a good story to click over for the full read. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Two medical marijuana companies located in different states just announced a deal to cross-manufacture and market each other's products in their respective home states. Colorado-based Wana Brands and Alt Med, a company operating out of Florida but with operations in Nevada, will each have the right to sell the entire brand portfolio of their other partner. Delmarva Public Radio is reporting that a proposed bill to expand Delaware's list of medical marijuana qualifying conditions making its way through the state Senate has been held up in committee after some lawmakers said that some earlier concerns had not yet been addressed. This morning in South Dakota, a trial gets underway for medical marijuana consultant Eric Hagan, CEO of cannabis consultancy Monarch America, who I reported on last year for their tangles with South Dakota District Attorney Marty Jackley for their involvement in a planned marijuana cultivation and processing center built on reservation lands by the Flandreau Santee Sioux tribe. Recently, I reported on the story involving a journalist who is being compelled by District Attorney Jackley to testify in the case. If convicted on all charges brought against him, Mr. Hagan could face up to 15 years in prison. We'll report back on this one as it resolves. This is another good story to click over for the full read. Oregon's Office of Economic Analysis just included, for the very first time, marijuana sales within the economic forecast it releases every fiscal quarter. The forecasts help provide a little bit of data framework to both lawmakers and business leaders as they plan out the year ahead. Click over to marijuana.com to see some of those numbers and to read the entire forecast yourself. Swinging out to Hawaii for a headline, we have one of the state's licensed medical marijuana providers harvesting a licensed crop for the very first time. Aloha Green Holdings said it successfully pulled down their first crop of medical marijuana, the state's first, and now awaits state officials to license a testing lab so they can process their cannabis for eventual sale to patients. And finally for today, Miami's deputy city attorney is in a bit of hot water for his recent remarks comparing medical marijuana users to pedophiles. During a hearing Wednesday night over a medical marijuana zoning issue, Barnaby Min, Miami's deputy city attorney, answered a question over the allowance of medical marijuana dispensaries by saying, quote, "It's not allowed. If the city of Miami, for some infinite, God forbidden reason, thought having sex with a child was a great way to recover from some issue, and so we wrote it into our city code, just because the city says it's legal does not mean it's legal. So just because for marijuana we say marijuana is legal and the state says it's legal, until the federal government says it's legal, it's not legal." Unquote. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a whole nother level of stupidity. Kevin Sabet should recruit this guy. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again Monday morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on the big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.